The millionaire Arthur Lawson had everything: money, power, respect, but on that park bench alone, he only had silence. He lost his wife a year ago, and along with her, he lost the meaning of Christmas. Until Lily Sullivan, the daughter of the housekeeper Maria, a strong and brave woman, crossed his path, and what that child asked him at that moment changed the destiny of 3 lives forever. Our stories have traveled far. Where are you watching from today? Share with us in the comments. Arthur Lawson was sitting alone on a park bench in the Upper West Side, watching a beautifully lit Christmas tree that he didn't have the courage to approach. It had been exactly a year since his wife Emily had passed, and since then, December had become the month he feared the most. At 42 years old, a millionaire in the real estate sector, he had everything money could buy, except for the one thing that truly mattered: the woman who made that date magical. The streets of New York City sparkled with red and gold lights. Storefronts displayed expensive gifts. Parks overflowed with hurried people buying decorations and food for the feast. The whole world seemed to celebrate, except for Arthur. For him, Christmas had ended the moment Emily closed her eyes for the last time. A couple passed by him laughing, carrying bags full of colorful packages. The woman lovingly adjusted her husband's tie, and Arthur looked away. He couldn't bear to see that. He couldn't bear to remember what he had and lost. Emily loved Christmas, not for the consumption, not for the extravagant parties, but for what the date represented. For her, it was an opportunity to gather people, to ensure that no one was alone. She spent weeks decorating every corner of the mansion, choosing music, planning a lavish feast, not just for them, but for the staff, for distant friends, for anyone who needed a place to be. "Christmas is about presents, Arthur," she used to say while hanging ornaments on the giant tree in the living room, "not about gifts." He never fully understood her passion. He thought it was beautiful, of course, but he didn't feel the same enthusiasm. Now, sitting on that cold bench, he finally understood. Christmas without Emily wasn't just without decorations, it was without meaning. This year he had banned any kind of decoration in the mansion. No lights, no tree, no music. The housekeeper, Emily Carter, had accepted the order with a rigid and approving silence. She never liked Emily's parties. She found them noisy, chaotic, full of people who shouldn't be there. Arthur ran his hand over his face, tired. He knew he was running away, escaping the empty house, escaping the memories, escaping the date that insisted on arriving every year, whether he wanted it or not. "Is she disappointed in you?" he murmured to himself, his voice hoarse. Emily would hate to see him like this. She who was pure light, pure energy, pure will to live, if she were there, would have pulled Arthur by the hand, dragged him to the illuminated tree, made him hug strangers and wish everyone a Merry Christmas. But Emily wasn't there, and Arthur wondered if he would ever feel the desire to live as she did. A group of children ran through the park, shouting and laughing, chasing each other in a game without rules. Arthur watched them for a moment, feeling a pang in his chest. Emily wanted to have children. They had tried for years without success. She never complained, never showed bitterness. Instead, she poured all that maternal love into any child who crossed her path. "Maybe we won't be biological parents," she once said, hugging Arthur from behind while he worked in the office. "But that doesn't mean we can't care for those in need." He had agreed more to please her than out of conviction. Now he saw that she was right. Emily had the rare ability to see beyond herself, to perceive others' pain and do something about it. Arthur sighed deeply. No, he wasn't like her. He never would be. Maria Sullivan held tightly to Lily's hand as they crossed the park. The 3-year-old girl couldn't stop bouncing, trying to break free to run to the illuminated tree. But Maria held on, not out of rigidity, but out of necessity. She couldn't lose sight of her daughter for even a second. "Mummy, look at the little lights," Lily shouted, pointing at the Christmas decorations. "I see them, my love, but we need to be quick, okay?" Maria replied, trying to keep her voice light despite the fatigue she felt down to her bones. At 29 years old, Maria carried responsibilities that felt twice her age. A single mother, a housekeeper without family nearby since her own, Maria's mother, passed away. Raising Lily alone was not easy, it was not fair, but it was the life she had. And Maria had learned early on that complaining changed nothing. She looked at the mansion in the distance, where she had been working for 6 months. She had forgotten her clean uniform in the storage closet and needed to fetch it before heading home. "Lily, stop pulling," Maria said, feeling her daughter's small hand slip between her fingers. The girl had boundless energy. No matter how many hours Maria worked or how many times they returned home late at night, Lily always found the strength to smile, to play, to see beauty where there was only exhaustion. It was both a blessing and a constant worry. Maria paused for a moment to adjust her bag on her shoulder. It was just that, 3 seconds of distraction. When she looked down, Lily was no longer by her side. Maria's heart raced. "Lily! Lily!" she called, her voice rising. She looked around, trying to locate her daughter in the crowded square. Children were running here and there. Adults were chatting in groups. Street vendors were shouting, offering churros and popcorn. "Lily!" Maria shouted again, now with desperation in her voice, and then she saw her. The girl had walked over to a nearby bench, right next to the illuminated tree, where a man was sitting alone. Maria recognized the posture immediately. It was him, Oliver Lawson, her boss. "My God," Maria whispered, quickening her pace. Lily was climbing onto the bench right beside him. Maria felt her stomach churn. She knew Oliver was a reserved man, closed off, who avoided contact with anyone unless strictly necessary. Emily had made that very clear from day one. Don't speak to Mr. Oliver unless he speaks to you first. Don't look directly at him. Don't ask questions. And for heaven's sake, keep your distance. Maria never fully understood those rules. She thought they were excessive, even cruel. But she wasn't the one in charge. She was just the housekeeper, and housekeepers didn't question orders. But now, seeing Lily sitting on the bench so close to Oliver, almost touching him, Maria panicked. "Lily!" she called, almost running. The girl turned her head and smiled as if she hadn't done anything wrong. "Hi, Mommy. Uncle is alone, just like Grandma said we shouldn't be." Maria froze. Oliver slowly lifted his eyes, as if returning from a very distant place. He looked at Lily, then at Maria, and remained silent. And in that silence, Maria was sure she would be fired. "Mr. Oliver, I apologize 1,000 times," Maria began, her voice trembling. "She's just a child. She doesn't understand that she can't disturb. I'll take her away right now." She reached out to take Lily, but the girl didn't move. On the contrary, she held onto the hem of Oliver's suit jacket with her little fingers. "But why are you alone?" Lily asked, tilting her head to the side. Maria felt her face burn with embarrassment. "Lily, that's enough," she said, grabbing the girl by the arm and pulling her away from the bench. "I'm really sorry, Mr. Oliver. It won't happen again." She quickly turned her back, dragging Lily by the hand, her heart pounding so hard it felt like it would leap out of her mouth. But what she didn't see was Oliver's expression changing as he watched them walk away. Maria continued walking fast, almost running, crossing the square toward the mansion, Lily protested, trying to break free. "Mommy, why did we leave? He seemed nice." "Because you can't do that, Lily," Maria replied, her voice harsher than she intended. "You can't approach people you don't know, and especially you can't disturb my boss." "But he was alone," Lily insisted, her voice becoming whiny. "Grandma always said we should help those who are alone." Maria stopped in the middle of the sidewalk and crouched down in front of her daughter, holding her shoulders firmly. "I know what Grandma said, my love, and she was right, but there are rules. There are things we can do and things we can't. Do you understand?" Lily looked down, her eyes shining with held-back tears. "I understand," she whispered. Maria sighed, feeling the weight of guilt tighten her chest. She didn't want to be harsh with her daughter. Lily was just being who she was, a sweet child, full of empathy, who had inherited from her grandma the ability to see pain in others. But kindness wasn't always safe, and Maria needed to protect her daughter above all. They arrived at the mansion through the back entrance. Maria used the key she had to open the storage room door and quickly entered, keeping Lily close to her. She grabbed the clean uniform she had left hanging, checked to see if there was anything else she had forgotten, and prepared to leave. That's when she heard footsteps in the hallway. Noreen. Maria would recognize that sound anywhere, the firm heels, the rigid walk, the presence that sucked any lightness out of the environment. "What are you doing here at this hour?" Noreen asked, appearing in the storage room doorway with her arms crossed. Maria swallowed hard. "I forgot my uniform, Miss Noreen. I'm leaving now." Noreen looked at Lily with a clear expression of disapproval and brought the girl back. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. "I had no one to leave her with," Maria explained, keeping her voice calm, but she didn't move. Noreen stepped into the storage room, squinting her eyes. "I hope not." Noreen stood there for a few more seconds, as if assessing whether Maria deserved an additional reprimand. Then she turned her back and left. Maria exhaled the breath she had been holding. "Come on, Lily," she said, taking her daughter by the hand again. "Let's go home." They walked back through the square. Maria couldn't help but glance at the bench where Oliver was sitting. He was still there alone, just as Lily had said. Oliver remained seated on the bench even after Maria and her daughter walked away. He didn't know why he hadn't gotten up and left. Maybe it was laziness, or perhaps it was the fact that the empty mansion awaited him and he wasn't in a hurry to return there. Or maybe it was the little girl's question that he couldn't forget. "Why are you alone?" Simple, direct, straightforward. A 3-year-old had managed to ask the question that no adult had dared to ask in an entire year. The people around Oliver were either afraid of him or felt pity for him, or both, but no one had the courage to ask anything directly. Oliver lifted his head and saw the girl walking toward him again, this time without her mother nearby. She had escaped, probably while Maria was distracted grabbing something from her bag or adjusting her own clothes. Lily stopped in front of him again, her big, curious eyes fixed on his face. "Are you still here?" she said. Oliver didn't respond immediately. He didn't know what to say. He wasn't used to talking to children. He wasn't used to talking to anyone. "You didn't go home?" Lily asked, tilting her head. "Not yet," Oliver replied, his voice coming out softer than he expected. Lily climbed onto the bench beside him, without asking for permission, without hesitation, sitting with her little legs swinging in the air, her feet not reaching the ground. "My mom said I can't bother you," she said with the brutal honesty of children, "but you look sad, and Grandma always said we shouldn't let anyone be sad. Alone." Oliver felt something tighten in his chest. It wasn't pain. It was something different, something he hadn't felt in a long time. "Your grandma sounds like a good person," he finally said. Lily nodded enthusiastically. "She did. She baked a cake every Sunday and told stories before bed. She never ever left anyone alone." "And where is she now?" Oliver asked before realizing he probably shouldn't have. Lily was quiet for a moment, swinging her legs slowly. "She went to heaven. Mommy said she's taking care of us from up there now." "I'm sorry," he said, and this time he meant it. "It's okay," Lily replied, shrugging her shoulders. "Mommy said we can't be sad forever, that Grandma wouldn't like it." Oliver looked at the girl. She was 3 years old. 3 years old, and had already learned to deal with loss, in a way that he, at 42, still couldn't. "Your mom is wise," he said. "She is," Lily agreed, smiling. "She's the best mom in the world. Even when she's tired, she always plays with me before bed and always makes tasty food, even when there's not much money." Oliver felt a weight in his chest. He knew who Maria was. He knew she worked at the mansion as a housekeeper. He knew she was a single mother, struggling to get by. Noreen had mentioned this more than once, always with a tone of disapproval, as if Maria's situation was a moral failing. But looking at Lily, so well cared for, so full of life, Oliver realized that Maria was doing a better job than many wealthy parents he knew. "You're lucky to have a mum like that," he said. Lily smiled even more. "I know. What about you? Do you have someone?" The question hit him, like a punch to the stomach. Oliver opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. What would he say? "Yes, I did, but she is gone, and now I don't know how to live without her." He said none of that. He just shook his head slowly. Lily seemed to think about that for a moment. Then, without warning, she took Oliver's hand. Her small, warm fingers wrapped around his large, cold one. And Oliver felt something break inside him. "Now, you're not alone," Lily said with the simplicity of someone who believes the world can be fixed. With a gesture, Oliver looked at the girl's hand holding his. He couldn't speak, couldn't move. He just stayed there, feeling the warmth of that small touch, so different from the cold he had carried for a year. It was at that moment that Maria reappeared, running in a panic. "Lily, how many times do I have to tell you not to run off?" she shouted, stopping in front of the bench, breathless. Lily looked at her mother innocently. "I was just keeping him company, Mummy. He's still alone." Maria looked from Lily to Oliver and then at their still, joined hands. She froze, unsure of what to do. "Mr. Oliver, I swear I'll keep her in check better. This won't happen again," Maria said quickly, trying to pull Lily off the bench. But Oliver, for the first time in a long time, felt that he didn't want the moment to end. "You don't have to," he said, his voice coming out low. Maria stopped, confused. "How?" Oliver cleared his throat, trying to find the right words. "You don't need to apologize. She isn't bothering me." It was the first time in a year that Oliver admitted out loud that he didn't want to be completely alone. Maria stood there, unsure how to react. Part of her wanted to grab Lily and run away before the situation got any stranger, but another part, the part that had learned with the Maria, reading people herself, saw something on Oliver's face that made her hesitate. He wasn't angry, he wasn't bothered, he was broken. "It's okay," Maria said, her voice softer now, but only for a few minutes. "Are you all right, Lily? We need to go home soon." Lily nodded, smiling. "Okay, Mommy." Maria felt something strange in her chest. She couldn't explain what it was. Maybe it was relief for not being fired. Maybe it was compassion for the man who, despite having so much money, seemed to have lost everything that truly mattered. Lily wouldn't stop talking. Her words flowed in a continuous stream, without pauses, without filters, with the raw honesty that only children possess. She told Oliver about the drawing she had seen that morning, about the doll she wanted for Christmas. But she knew it was too expensive, about how her mommy always sang to her to sleep even when she was very tired. Oliver didn't interrupt, didn't try to change the subject, he just listened. It was strange. He couldn't remember the last time he had truly heard someone speak. In business meetings, he heard data, numbers, proposals. But this was different. Lily didn't want anything from him. She wasn't trying to impress him. She wasn't measuring her words. She didn't expect anything in return. She just wanted to talk. And he, not quite understanding why, wanted to listen. "Do you like cartoons?" Lily asked suddenly, looking at him expectantly. Oliver took a moment to respond. It had been so long since someone had asked him a question that wasn't related to business that he almost didn't know how to react. "I don't watch much," he admitted. Lily seemed shocked. "Never? Not even when you were little?" "A long time ago," Oliver said, a sad smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. Lily swung her legs with more enthusiasm. I like princess cartoons, but not just those. I also like dinosaurs and rockets. Mommy said I can like everything. I don't have to choose. Your mommy is right, Oliver said, and this time the smile lasted a little longer. Maria, watching from afar, felt her heart tighten. She had never seen Oliver smile, not once. Since she started working in the mansion, he had always been a distant, serious, inaccessible figure. Noreen always spoke of him as if he were a statue, something to be respected from afar but never touched. But there, sitting on that bench, listening to the chatter of a 3-year-old, he seemed human. Lily adjusted her position on the bench, getting even closer to Oliver. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Do you have children?" she asked. The question hit Oliver like a stone. He felt his breath falter for a second. "No," he replied, his voice lowering. "Why not?" Lily insisted, without malice, just pure curiosity. Oliver didn't know how to respond, how to explain to a 3-year-old that he and Emily had tried, that they had gone to doctors, that they had waited and prayed and wished, but it never happened. "Sometimes things don't happen the way we want," he said, choosing his words carefully. Lily thought about this for a moment. "It's like Grandma. Mommy wanted her to stay, but she went to heaven." Even so, he looked at Lily, really looked, and saw something he didn't expect. Understanding, not intellectual, not rational, but emotional. That little child, with her limited vocabulary and her still-forming worldview, understood loss, understood absence. "It's similar," Oliver said, his voice almost faltering. Lily moved even closer and, without asking for permission, rested her head on his shoulder. "Then we can be sad together," she simply said. Since Emily had passed, he had avoided any physical contact. Handshakes in meetings were quick and formal. Hugs from acquaintances were subtly deflected. He had built an invisible barrier around himself, a distance that kept everyone far enough away so they wouldn't hurt him more than he was already hurt. But Lily, with her 3 years of age and her complete lack of social boundary awareness, had crossed that barrier as if it didn't exist, and Oliver didn't have the strength to rebuild it. Now Maria stepped forward, worried that her daughter was crossing all possible boundaries. But before she could say anything, Oliver raised his free hand, asking her to wait. Maria stopped, confused, but obeyed. Oliver looked at Lily, still with her head resting on his shoulder, her eyes closed, as if she were about to sleep. "Aren't you afraid of me?" he asked, in a low voice. Lily opened her eyes and looked at him, confused. "Why would I be?" "People usually are," Oliver admitted. Lily thought about this for a moment, then shrugged. "You don't seem scary, you just seem lonely." He felt his eyes burn. He didn't cry, didn't allow the tears to fall, but he felt. He felt everything, the pain, the loneliness, the emptiness he had carried for a year and pretended didn't exist. Lily adjusted her position on the bench, pulling Oliver's hand again. "You know what Grandma used to say when I was sad?" she asked. "What?" Oliver managed to say. "She said sadness passes, that sometimes it takes a while, but it always passes. And while it doesn't pass, we can be sad with someone by our side. It's better than being sad alone." Oliver looked at that little girl in her simple dress and worn-out shoes and felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Gratitude. Lily yawned, the tiredness finally catching up to her. "I think Mommy is going to want to go home soon," she said sleepily. Oliver nodded. "I think so too." But neither of them moved. Maria, seeing that Lily was starting to fall asleep, finally approached. "Lily, my love, let's go. It's late." Lily slowly opened her eyes and looked at Oliver. "Are you going to be okay?" she asked, with the genuine concern of someone who truly cares. Oliver felt his chest tighten. Again. "I will," he said, and for the first time he believed it a little. Lily smiled and got off the bench, holding her mother's hand. "Bye, Uncle," she said, waving. Bye, Lily, Oliver replied. Maria held her daughter by the hand and began to walk away, but she stopped and looked back. Mr. Oliver, she said hesitantly, thank you for not being bothered by her. Oliver looked at Maria, seeing for the first time the woman beyond the housekeeper. He saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the determination in her posture, the dignity in her voice. It was she who wasn't bothered by me, he said. Thank you for that. Maria didn't know what to say. She just nodded and continued walking, leading Lily by the hand. Oliver remained seated on the bench, watching the two walk away. Emily Carter observed everything from the window of the second floor of the mansion. Her eyes followed every movement in the square, especially the bench where Oliver was sitting. She had seen Maria pass with her daughter, had seen the child approach Oliver, had seen the contact, and she didn't like it one bit. Emily was 46 years old and had worked for the Lawson family for nearly 20 years. She knew every corner of that house, every habit of its residents, every unspoken rule that kept everything running smoothly. When Emily was alive, things were chaotic. There were always people in the house, always noise, always last-minute changes that disrupted the carefully planned routine. Emily endured it because she had no choice, but since Emily left, the house had finally returned to how it should be, quiet, organized, predictable, and Noreen intended to keep it that way. 3 days passed since the meeting in the square. Maria returned to work, bringing Lily with her but keeping the girl close and quiet. She didn't want to give Noreen any reason to complain, even knowing that Oliver had given permission. Noreen, in turn, kept her distance. She spoke with a fury beyond what was strictly necessary, but her eyes followed every movement, every gesture, as if she were waiting for a mistake, a flaw, anything that would justify what she had already decided about Maria. Oliver had returned to his usual routine, meetings, calls, papers to sign, but something had changed. He found himself thinking about the conversation with Lily, about how the girl had held his hand without fear, without ulterior motives, and he found himself thinking about Maria too. Maria was cleaning the dining room when she heard the doorbell ring at the back. Noreen was somewhere in the house, so Maria put down the cloth and went to answer. When she opened the door, she felt her stomach churn. Ryan Anderson was there with a fake smile. "Hi, Maria," he said, as if they were old friends. Maria froze for a second, then tried to close the door. Ryan put his foot in the way. "Easy, easy. Isn't this how you greet the father of your daughter?" "You're not a father to anyone," Maria said, her voice coming out harsh. "Go away, Ryan." "I just want to talk," he said, slowly pushing the door open. 5 minutes. Maria looked back, checking if Lily was in sight. The girl was playing in the kitchen, distracted. "We have nothing to talk about." Maria said, "You disappeared before Lily was born, never gave a dime, never asked how she was, and now you show up here wanting what exactly?" Ryan shrugged. "I heard you're working in a fancy mansion, that your boss is rich. I thought maybe you could help me." Maria felt the anger explode in her chest. "Help you?" she repeated in disbelief. "You want me to help you? After everything you did, after abandoning me pregnant, after never paying child support, after letting my daughter grow up without a father." "Our daughter," Ryan corrected, his smile widening. "And about that I was thinking, maybe it's time for me to exercise my rights as a father." Maria's blood ran cold. "What rights? You never wanted to be a father. You said that to my face when I told you I was pregnant." He leaned against the wall casually, as if they were just chatting. "People change, and the law is on my side. I'm the biological father. I can request joint custody or even full custody, depending on how things go." Maria felt her legs weaken. "You can't be serious." "I am," Ryan said, his voice growing colder. "But you know lawsuits are expensive. Lawyers, fees, paperwork. It's a lot of work. It would be easier if we resolved this between us, don't you think? And there was the blackmail. Maria looked at Ryan, seeing for the first time the man he truly was. He wasn't just absent. He wasn't just irresponsible. He was evil. "How much?" Maria asked, her voice trembling with rage. Ryan smiled. "$5,000 to start. Then we'll see." "I don't have $5,000, Maria said. "You know that, but your boss does," Ryan replied. "And from what I've heard, you've been quite close to him lately. I'm sure he wouldn't mind helping." Maria felt the urge to hit him, to scream, to do anything to wipe that disgusting smile off his face, but she did none of that. "Get out of here," she said, her voice low but firm. "Now." Ryan shrugged. "All right, but I'll be back, and next time maybe I'll bring a lawyer, or maybe I'll just show up to meet my daughter. After all, I have that right, don't I?" He stepped away from the door, waving his hand. "Think about what I said, Maria. 5,000 is cheap to ensure I stay away." He left, and Maria stood there trembling, trying to hold it together. Lily appeared at the kitchen door, holding the old doll she carried everywhere. "Who was it, Mommy?" Maria quickly wiped her eyes, forcing a smile. "No one, my love, just a salesman." Lily seemed to accept the answer and went back to playing. Maria leaned against the wall. She leaned against the wall, feeling the tears finally escape. She didn't know what to do. She had no money, no lawyer, no one to help her. And Ryan knew that. He had chosen the perfect moment to show up. He had discovered that she worked in a wealthy household and saw an opportunity. Maria closed her eyes, trying to control her breathing. She wasn't going to let Ryan take Lily, no matter what she had to do, no matter how hard she had to fight. Nora appeared in the hallway, watching Maria with a cold gaze. "Everything all right here?" she asked, but her tone made it clear she didn't really care. Maria quickly wiped her face. "Yes, Miss Nora, just a mistake at the door." Nora didn't seem convinced, but she didn't press the issue. She simply turned her back and went back inside the house. Maria took a deep breath and returned to her work, but her hands trembled as she dusted the furniture. Ryan had planted a seed of fear that she couldn't uproot, and she knew he would be back. The question was what she would do when that happened. Ryan returned the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. Each time he showed up at the back door of the mansion, always with the same smile, always with the same barely concealed threat. He didn't ask to see. Lily showed no real interest in the girl, just repeated the same speech. $5,000, or he would pursue his rights. Maria tried to ignore it, tried to stay strong, but the fear grew with each passing day. And it wasn't just Ryan. Nora had noticed something was wrong. She didn't know exactly what it was, but she saw the way Maria looked at the door, the way she flinched at any unexpected noise. And Nora, in her calculated cruelty, decided to use this to her advantage. "You seem distracted lately," she said to Maria one morning while watching her clean the kitchen floor. Maria didn't look up. "I'm fine, Miss Nora." "Are you sure?" Nora insisted, stepping a little closer, "because it seems like you're bringing personal problems to work, and that's unacceptable." "I'm not bringing anything," she said, still not looking at Nora. "I'm doing my job as always." "Are you?" Nora asked, crossing her arms. "Because I saw a man here the other day at the back door, talking to you." "Who was he?" Maria finally looked up, meeting Nora's cold stare. "No one important, no one important," Nora repeated as if testing the words. "Funny, because he's come back several times, and every time he shows up you get nervous, distracted, and your work quality drops." "My work hasn't dropped," Maria said. "I clean everything you ask, on time, the way you want." Nora gave a small smile. "For now. But if these personal problems continue, it might be better for you to look for another job, somewhere you don't have to worry about keeping up appearances. Are you threatening me? I'm advising you, Nora corrected, like someone who has been here much longer than you and knows how things work. Maria gripped the cleaning cloth tightly, trying to control the urge to scream. I need this job, she said, her voice coming out softer, more vulnerable than she would have liked. Nora tilted her head, feigning concern. I know. And that's exactly why you should resolve your personal issues before they affect your position here. With that, she turned her back and left, leaving Maria alone in the kitchen, trembling with anger and fear. At that moment, Oliver was in the office, watching everything from the security monitor. He didn't usually check the cameras. In fact, he barely remembered they existed most of the time. But in recent days, he had noticed something strange. Maria was different, more tense, more scared. And then he saw in the recordings from previous days a man appearing at the back door, always at the same time, always talking to Maria, and always leaving with that smile that Oliver recognized all too well, the smile of someone who had something on another person. Oliver rewound the recording and turned up the audio. He couldn't hear everything, but he caught enough words. Lawyer, money, blackmail. He went back even further in the recordings and saw something that made him even angrier. The conversation between Nora and Maria that morning. Oliver turned off the monitor and stood there. Emily would have acted immediately. She would have rushed down the stairs, confronted Nora, protected Maria without hesitation. But Emily was no longer there, and Oliver needed to decide what kind of man he wanted to be. He got up from the chair and went down the stairs, heading straight for the kitchen. Maria was still there, cleaning the floor with mechanical movements, her face wet with tears she was trying to hide. Maria, Oliver said, startling her. She turned quickly, wiping her face with the back of her hand. Mr. Oliver, I'm sorry, I was just— Who is he? Oliver interrupted. Maria went pale. Who? The man who is threatening you, Oliver said directly. Who is he? Maria felt her legs weaken. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. I saw the cameras, Oliver explained, his voice softer now. I saw him showing up here several times. I saw the conversation Nora had with you today, and I need to know who he is and what he wants. Maria began to cry. She couldn't hold it in anymore. She broke down, right there in the middle of the kitchen, sobbing uncontrollably. He's Lily's father, she managed to say between sobs. He disappeared before she was born, never wanted to know about her, never helped with anything. And now he's back because he found out I work here. He wants money. He said if I don't give it to him, he'll file for custody. Oliver felt rage explode in his chest. He can't do that. He can, Maria said, wiping her face. He's her biological father. He has rights, and I don't have the money to— Maria took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the situation. I can't fight this. He knows that. He knows I'm cornered. Oliver remained silent for a moment, processing everything. How much is he asking for? $5,000, Maria replied. But he said he'll want more later. He'll always want more. Oliver nodded. They always do. He pulled a chair and sat in front of Maria. Look at me, he said, waiting for her to lift her eyes. You're not giving him any money, understand? Not a cent. But he will. He won't do anything, Maria protested. Because I'll take care of it, Oliver interrupted. I can't accept that, Mr. Oliver. Maria shook her head. It's not your problem. It is my problem if it's happening in my house, Oliver said firmly, and if it's affecting someone who works for me. Maria started to cry again, and it was the first time Oliver felt he was doing something that truly mattered since Emily left. Regis showed up again 2 days later, but this time he didn't find Maria alone at the back door. He found Oliver. Regis paused for a second, surprised, but quickly regained his smile. "Hey, the boss himself. Nice to meet you. I'm Regis, Lily's father." Oliver didn't respond, just watched him with that cold stare that made seasoned executives tremble in meetings. "I know who you are," Oliver finally said, "and I know why you're here." Regis shrugged, trying to maintain a relaxed posture. "So you know, I just want what's rightfully mine. I'm a father. I have the right to see my daughter." "You never wanted to see your daughter," Oliver said, each word heavy. "You abandoned her before she was even born. You've never paid child support, never shown interest. You're not a father, you're an opportunist." Regis laughed, but there was nervousness in that sound. "Look, no offense, but this isn't your business. It's between me and Maria. Everything that happens on this property is my business," Oliver replied, "and you're not welcome here." Regis crossed his arms, trying to look confident. "Fine, but the law is on my side. I can file for custody. I can prove that Maria can't raise the girl alone. She works all day, leaves the child alone." "She never leaves Lily alone," Oliver interrupted. "And you have no proof of anything because there's nothing to prove. Maria is a model mother." All right, Regis said, raising his hands in surrender. "No need to get angry. I'm just trying to be reasonable here. If she gives me what I'm asking for, we can settle this amicably, and I'll leave her life." "You mean if she pays you, you'll go away until you need more money," Oliver corrected. "And then you'll come back again and again, because that's what people like you do." Regis narrowed his eyes. "People like me, parasites," Oliver said without hesitation. "People who produce nothing, build nothing, care for no one, only show up when there's an opportunity to take advantage." Regis stepped forward, trying to assert himself. "Watch what you say. You may be rich, but you don't own me." "No," Oliver agreed. "But I own this property, and I'm politely asking you to leave now." "And what if I don't?" Regis challenged. Oliver took his phone out of his pocket and began to dial. "Then I'll call the police and file a complaint for trespassing and attempted extortion. I have everything recorded on the security cameras, your visits, your threats, everything." Regis turned pale. "You can't do that." "I can, and I will," Oliver said, keeping his tone calm. "Unless you leave now and never come back." Regis looked from Oliver to the phone, calculating his options. He realized he had none. "This isn't over," he said, backing down. "I have rights." "You have the right to leave while you still can," Oliver replied. Regis huffed, turned on his heel and left, but not before shouting, "You think you've solved something? I'll be back, and next time I'll bring my lawyer." Oliver simply watched him leave, then entered the house and closed the door, knowing this wasn't over. Maria was in the living room holding Lily in her arms, her face pale with fear. She had heard everything. "Mr. Oliver, tomorrow morning you're coming to my office," Oliver said bluntly. "I'll give you my lawyer's contact. He specializes in family law. He'll take care of everything." "I can't afford to pay," Maria started, but Oliver raised his hand. "I'm not asking for payment, I'm offering help." "But why?" Maria asked, her voice trembling. "Why are you doing this?" Oliver was silent for a moment, searching for the right words. "Because it's the right thing to do," he finally said, "and because Emily would never have let this happen. She would have defended you without hesitation, and I need to honor that." Maria began to cry again, but this time it was tears of relief. Nora chose that exact moment to appear. "Mr. Oliver, I need to talk to you about her." She stopped upon seeing the scene, Maria crying, Lily in her arms, Oliver standing there with that serious expression. "About what?" Oliver asked, without taking his eyes off Maria. Nora hesitated about Maria. "I think it would be best if she took a few days off. She's clearly going through personal issues that are affecting her work." Oliver finally looked at Nora. No, he said simply and directly. Nora blinked in surprise. I'm sorry, but Maria is not taking time off. She will continue working normally, and you will stop using her problems as an excuse to try to get rid of her. Nora went pale. Mr. Oliver, I know exactly what you were doing, Oliver interrupted, his voice growing colder. And I'll make it very clear now. Maria works for me, not for you. If she has any issues, she comes to talk to me, not to you. If I find out that you are making her life difficult in any way, we will have a very serious conversation about your future in this house. It was the first time in 20 years that someone spoke to Nora that way. She stood there frozen, her face red with humiliation and anger. Do you understand? Oliver asked. Nora pressed her lips into a thin line. Yes, sir. Great. You can go. Nora turned her back and left. When she was gone, Oliver turned his attention to Maria. Are you okay? Maria nodded, still holding Lily. I am. Thank you for everything. Oliver nodded. Tomorrow at my office. 9 a.m. Bring Lily if you need to. I will be there, Maria promised. The next morning, Maria entered Oliver's office with Lily in hand. The girl looked around with wide eyes, impressed by the books, the paintings, the large dark wooden desk. Oliver was sitting behind the desk, but stood up when he saw them enter. Good morning, he said, gesturing to the chairs in front of the desk. Sit. Maria sat down, placing Lily on her lap. The girl was quiet for once, sensing the seriousness of the moment. Oliver took a folder and placed it in front of Maria. Here is the contact for Dr. Henry Smith. He is one of the best family law attorneys in New York City. I have already explained the situation to him. He will see you this afternoon, if you can. Maria looked at the folder, then at Oliver. Mr. Oliver, I don't know how to thank you, but I need to be honest. I can't afford a lawyer of this caliber. Not now, maybe never. He won't charge, Oliver said. Maria shook her head. I can't accept that. It's too much. It's not charity, Oliver explained. It's justice. What Ryan is doing is wrong, and people like him only continue to do so because they know their victims don't have the resources to fight back. But why are you doing this? She asked, her voice trembling. I am just your housekeeper. Why do you care? Oliver was silent for a long moment, searching for the right words, because Emily would have done the same thing. He finally said, She could never see injustice without doing something about it. And I have spent the last year avoiding everything she represented because it hurt too much to remember. But perhaps honoring who she was doesn't mean erasing the pain. It means continuing to do what she would do. Maria wiped her eyes. Your wife must have been an incredible person. She was, Oliver agreed, a small, sad smile appearing. She would love you. She would love the way you fight for Lily, the way you don't back down even when everything is against you. Lily, who had been quiet until then, suddenly spoke. My mommy is the best in the world. Oliver looked at the girl and smiled. A genuine smile this time. I don't doubt that. Maria held her daughter's hand, squeezing gently. What exactly will the lawyer do? She asked. Oliver opened the folder and explained. First, he will file a motion to ensure that Ryan has no custody rights. He will use the history of abandonment, the lack of support, the total absence during Lily's first 3 years of life. Then, if Ryan insists on showing up or making threats, he will file for a protective order, and if necessary, we will sue for attempted extortion. Maria turned pale. That's just going to make him angrier. Probably, Oliver admitted, but men like Ryan are cowards. They only attack when they think they can win easily. The moment they realize they will face real resistance, they usually back down. And what if he doesn't back down? Maria asked, her voice low. Oliver looked directly into her eyes. Then we keep fighting as long as necessary. Maria felt something break inside her, not from pain, but from relief. For the first time since Ryan appeared, she was not alone. "Thank you," she said, her voice choked. "Seriously, thank you." Oliver nodded. "You don't need to thank me. Just show up at Dr. Henry's office today at 3 p.m. The address is in the folder." Maria took the folder, holding it as if it were the most precious thing in the world. Lily shifted in her mother's lap and looked at Oliver. "Uncle Oliver, are you going to help us?" she asked, with the straightforward simplicity of children. "I will," Oliver replied. Lily smiled. "Then you are nice, just like I said." Oliver felt something warm in his chest. "Thank you, Lily." Maria stood up, still holding the folder. "We won't bother you anymore. I know you have work. You're not bothering me," Oliver said. And Maria, she stopped at the door and looked back. "Yes, if Ryan shows up again, you call me immediately. Don't try to handle it alone. Understood?" Maria nodded, feeling for the first time in a long time that she didn't have to carry everything alone. When they left, Oliver sat there, looking at the closed door. Emily would have been proud. He could almost hear her saying, "See, it's not that hard to do the right thing." A small smile appeared on his face. No, it wasn't that hard. He had just forgotten how. That afternoon, Maria went to Dr. Henry's office. He was a 60-year-old man with grey hair, gold-rimmed glasses, and a calm demeanor that immediately put her at ease. She told him everything about Ryan, about the abandonment, about the recent threats. The lawyer listened without interrupting, making occasional notes. When she finished, he took off his glasses and cleaned them with a handkerchief. "Maria, I'm going to be direct with you. The case isn't complicated. Ryan has no grounds for custody. His history works completely against him. But he may try to use the system to scare you and force you to pay." "So what do I do?" Maria asked. "Nothing." "Dr. Henry replied, "You continue living your life. I will take care of the rest. I will file the paperwork later this week. If he will show up again, you call me. If he tries to talk to you, you don't respond. Any communication goes through me now. How long will it take?" "A few weeks," Dr. Henry said, "but you will come out of this with full custody, and if I get what I want, with a restraining order against him." Maria started to cry with relief. Thank you so much." Dr. Henry smiled gently. "Thank Oliver. He is the one paying for all of this. And between you and me, in the 20 years I've known that man, I've never seen him do something like this. Whatever happened between you two, it affected him." Maria shook her head. "Nothing happened. My daughter just talked to him. That was it." Dr. Henry chuckled softly. "Sometimes that's all we need. Someone to remind us that there are still good things in the world." Christmas Eve arrived quietly. There was no party at the mansion. There was no elaborate feast. There was no giant tree decorated with 1,000 lights. The house remained as it was, quiet, elegant and empty, but something was different. Oliver didn't run away. For the first time in a year, he didn't try to erase the day from the calendar. He didn't leave the house to avoid the memories. He didn't lock himself in the office, pretending that work was more important than facing the absence. Instead, he went to the park. The same bench where it all began awaited him, surrounded by lights that softly glimmered in the December darkness. He sat there no longer trying to escape the date, but allowing himself to be present in it, and it didn't take long for a familiar little voice to break the silence. "Uncle Oliver!" Lily shouted, running toward Oliver with Maria right behind her. Oliver looked up and, for the first time in a long time, felt like smiling. "Hi, Lily," he said, and his voice wasn't as heavy as before. The girl climbed onto the bench beside him as if that were the most natural place in the world to be. "We came to see the lights. Mommy said today is special." "Yes," Oliver agreed. "It's Christmas." Lily swung her legs in the air. Are you alone again? Oliver looked at her, then at Maria, who was approaching slowly, respecting the space but staying close enough to protect. Not as much as before, he answered honestly. Lily seemed satisfied with that. Good, because being alone on Christmas is sad. Grandma always said that. Oliver felt that familiar pain in his chest, but this time he didn't try to suffocate it. He let it exist, acknowledged its presence, and kept breathing. Your grandma was right, he said. Maria finally got close enough to speak. Mr. Oliver, I'm sorry to bother you, I saw you. Here, and Lily ran ahead before I could stop her. You're not bothering, Oliver said, and he realized it was true. Maria hesitated, then sat on the bench too, keeping a respectful distance but present. Dr. Henry called me today, she said, her voice carrying relief. Regis gave up. When he saw he was going to face a real lawsuit, he disappeared. He must have realized he wouldn't gain anything. Oliver agreed. Coward until the end. Yes, Maria agreed. But it's over. Finally over. They sat in silence for a moment, just watching the lights in the park twinkle slowly. Lily filled the silence with her usual chatter, talking about the simple gift she had received, about the cake her mommy had made, about how the stars seemed brighter today. Oliver listened to everything, and this time it wasn't just out of politeness. It was because he genuinely wanted to hear. You know what Grandma used to say about Christmas? Lily suddenly asked, turning to Oliver. What? He replied. She said that Christmas isn't about having everything. It's about being with those who matter. Oliver felt his eyes sting. His grandma was very wise indeed. She was, Lily agreed. Then she tilted her head. Oh, you had someone who was wise too. Oliver took a moment to respond, but when he did, his voice was steady. I did. My wife Emily. She was like your grandma. She believed that no one should be alone, that everyone deserved someone who cared. Where is she? Lily asked with the innocence of children. Maria tensed, ready to steer the conversation away, but Oliver answered first. She went to heaven like your grandma. Lily thought about this for a moment, swinging her legs slowly. Then they must be up there, being friends and taking care of us. Oliver felt a tear escape, but he didn't wipe it away. He let it roll down his face, accepting that it was okay to feel. I think so, he said, his voice choked. Lily moved closer and held his hand, that simple gesture that had started it all. So we're not alone, we're never truly alone, and it was in that moment that Oliver finally understood. Christmas didn't have to be the same to continue meaning something. It didn't need a big party, a huge tree, loud music. It could just be this, a park bench, a child talking too much, a mommy watching with tired but hopeful eyes. It could be quiet and still be true. It could be small and still be enough. Emily wouldn't come back. This Christmas would never be like the ones before, but continuing to live wasn't betrayal. It was honor. It was a silent way of continuing to love. Maria watched Oliver as she saw something change in his face. It wasn't complete happiness. It wasn't full healing, but it was a beginning. It was a crack in the armor he had built around his heart. Thank you, Oliver said. Suddenly looking at Maria, she blinked, confused. Why? For letting Lily be who she is, for raising a child who knows that empathy matters more than social rules, for reminding me that there are still good people in the world. Maria felt her chest tighten. I'm just doing what I can, like everyone else, no. Oliver disagreed. Not like everyone else. Most people would have taught Lily to ignore a lonely stranger in a park. Bank. You taught her to offer companionship. That matters. Maria simply nodded, feeling tears in her eyes. Mr. Oliver, we're going to have a feast at home if you'd like to come, she said. Oliver was surprised. I don't want to intrude. You won't intrude. It would be nice to have you there. He hesitated, then agreed. All right, I'll go. Lily clapped her hands, excited. The feast was simple: rice, chicken, salad and a cake bought from the store. But it was the best feast Oliver had had in years. Lily talked non-stop, told nonsensical stories, asked random questions, and laughed at things only she found funny. Maria watched, smiling, and in that moment Oliver realized that perhaps this was exactly what he needed. Not replacement, not forgetting, but connection, permission to move on. A reminder that life still had small and precious moments, even after enormous losses. He stayed there for a while longer. When he finally got up to leave, Lily waved. "Bye, Uncle Oliver." Oliver waved back. "See you later, Lily." Maria looked at him one last time before leaving. "Merry Christmas, Mr. Oliver." Oliver hesitated, then responded with a voice he hadn't used in a long time. "Merry Christmas, Maria." And for the first time in a year, he truly meant it, because he had learned something important. Living on wasn't betraying those who had passed. It was honoring their memory by continuing to be human. Oliver and Lily's story reminds us that grief isn't a place we should live in forever, but a path we walk through. Often, the answers we seek aren't in grand gestures or expensive gifts, but in the courage of a child holding our hand and inviting us to sit on the bench of life again. I brought this narrative today for us to reflect on how small connections can save a heart that has already given up on beating. And have you allowed someone unexpected to brighten your day? Share your reflection in the comments and let's spread a little hope together. So, what did you think of the story? Leave your opinion in the comments. We love to know what you think. Don't forget to like the video to support us and subscribe to the channel. Until next time,